Well, good morning. Welcome to another edition of Take 5. It is Saturday, February 26th, and we're in the Sermon on the Mount. We're at the climax of the Sermon on the Mount. Jesus is getting very serious about what he teaches, and today's is also very serious. Yesterday I was, and today I'll have to be serious because Jesus is. In Matthew chapter 7, verse 21, not everyone who says to me, Lord, Lord, will enter the kingdom of heaven, but the one who does the will of my Father who is in heaven. On that day many will say to me, Lord, Lord, did we not prophesy in your name, and cast out demons in your name, and do many mighty works in your name? And then I will declare to them, I never knew you. Depart from me, you workers of lawlessness. There's a fact here. There's a truth here. The fact and the truth, according to Jesus, is that a person can look like a Christian on the outside, can do a lot of good things in Jesus' name, can preach, prophesy is a synonym for preach, can drive out demons, can perform miracles, amazing things. Now, Jesus picked these things, I think, in particular because you would suspect somebody doing these things. Surely that's a Christian. Jesus said, many people are going to be doing that kind of stuff and saying to him, Lord, Lord. He's going to say, I never knew you. And he calls them evildoers, and he says, depart from me. He says they'll never enter the kingdom of heaven. But if you remember, the first thing he says is, not everyone who says to me, Lord, Lord, will enter the kingdom of heaven, but the one who does the will of my Father who is in heaven. You know, it might not necessarily be God's will to drive out demons. He allows demons. It might not be God's will to do miracles. You know what God's will is? Obey what's in here to the best of your ability. That's his will. Jesus has just been preaching. We've been reading for almost 3 entire chapters now what his will is. His will is that you be poor in spirit, that you mourn over your sin, that you hunger and thirst for righteousness, that you seek his kingdom first, that you have a great prayer life with him in which during that prayer you're asking God to be the king in your life, and you're asking God to forgive you of your sins and give you power over sin, and you're forgiving other people of their sin. It's a life in which you're not judging other people, in which you're salt and light to the world. It's putting into practice what's in this book, and in particular what's in this sermon, but it includes everything. That's his will. That's who gets to heaven. Now, nobody can do this perfectly. But you're not going to get to go to heaven by doing a few extravagant things, or even by doing many extravagant things, if you don't obey what's in here. I'm asking you to look at this passage to realize 2 things. Number one, there are people who won't go to heaven even though they think they are going. Secondly, look at your own life. Are you doing the will of your Father? Now, there is grace, 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 grace. And this is a scary passage. So I don't want to talk about grace too much today, since we're dealing with a scary passage today. We will definitely deal with grace when we get to those passages. But certainly there is some grace. But look at your life. Are you doing the will? And if you don't care about doing God's will, if you're not reading this book, first of all, you have to read it to know what's in there. And then if you're not obeying it, Jesus said, not me, not Wayne. Jesus said, you're not going to heaven. He's saying he doesn't know you. He's saying depart from him. And he's calling you a worker of lawlessness. I told you it was serious today. And I'm going to stay as serious as this as I leave you and ask you to come back tomorrow. And we will conclude the Sermon on the Mount on tomorrow's edition of Take 5.